Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. Today we take a long look at a game from a studio I'm not familiar with. As you probably saw before you clicked this video, I'm talking about Warhammer 40k Rogue Trader, made by Owlcat Games. In this video I'll try to present you the game how it is, with its good, bad and ugly parts, and try to answer the two questions. Is this game any good? Is it worth it for me? I'll try to answer those questions by describing how I feel about the game and why I feel that way, so you can make an educated decision. If you can relate to what I'm saying and it seems genuine and informative to you, odds are my answers are good for you. If not, it means we are built differently and you should probably dig more on those topics yourself. I've completed the game in 99.6 hours. And I'll not show you major spoilers past the beginning of the game, and when I will start spoiling stuff, we'll do it in the story section, and I will warn you in advance so you can skip it with the timestamps. And finally, I'll try as much as possible to show relevant gameplay through this review as I always do. The game was made in a close partnership with Games Workshop, and it is a story-rich cRPG. I wouldn't expect it any other way when it comes to Warhammer games. I'm not into the lore of Warhammer 40k, but I know there's a lot of it, and from what I saw from playing previous titles, I would really enjoy it, if I would have the time to read. This is a complex game, and with big games, I will try from now on to go deeper with my reviews. We'll still have the 10-15 minutes ones for most of the games though, so take a coffee or save it for watching later, because this will take a while. Let me tell you from the start, this is a good game, but I don't think it is for everyone. Sadly, people have limited time on this planet and we all value things differently. The good thing is, you can still have a good time, even if you don't have hours upon hours to read the lore and all the talents and skills. The game really does a decent job letting you go through it in a semi-superficial level, but also lets you dive deep if you want, with almost all its systems. You can just pick a pre-made character or try to create one yourself. I'm saying try here because, well, it's complicated. I mean, not really complicated, but to really understand the talents, for example, you got a lot of tooltip reading to do, my friend. A lot. And you even have in this game tooltips within tooltips, if you can believe that. I see this as a plus, by the way. As with most of the in-game systems, you can go as deep as you want. The same thing with the difficulty. You can customize a lot of settings or just choose one of the presets and be done with it. And in game, every time you level up, the game gives you recommendations, so you don't get lost through the multitude of options you have. Where the game stops helping you that much is questing. Most of us got used with markers on a map. It's weird, you have all loot crate locations within a level marked on your map, but not objective locations. While I'll appreciate this to some extent, because sure, it encourages exploring and stuff, it can be annoying at times, because you need to backtrack a lot if you miss an objective. And that brings us nicely to my next point, and why it makes running around the world annoying when you do it because you missed something. Loading screens. This game has lots of them. I'll go as far as saying it compares with Starfield. Well, it doesn't have that many loading screens for sure, but let me explain. When you enter a level, you need to load, of course. It's okay when you do it the first time, because you know, you do a lot of stuff in that level for the next 5, 10, 30 minutes, even more. Fight enemies, loot stuff, read lore, do puzzles, have conversations, all the good stuff. But when you need to go back 2 or 3 levels because you realize you forgot something, then we load those levels in quick succession. And the loading in this game is not as fast as Starfield, and I got one of the best PCs money can buy, by the way. While playing the prologue game almost lost me. I even told a friend the game is 6 out of 10 for me. Hold on, don't rage quit the video and bash me in the comments just yet, guys. Let's just be honest, we all got spoiled this year by Larian Studios. Yeah, I know, I shouldn't compare these studios, but I am. even if I know it's not fair. I'm comparing them with my monkey brain, even if I don't want to. And as consumers, we have the luxury of doing exactly that. More power to whoever can adjust their expectations depending on the size of the studio that made the game. I'm trying to be one of those guys, by the way, but I still compare them. Let me explain why the game almost lost me. I was hit with a lot of text, all of a sudden, and I didn't expect that. I didn't play Pathfinder or many cRPGs in the past, and the ones I've played had more condensed text than this, meaning even I could read that much. This game sometimes has one page of text when you are talking with a character. In the end, right before you hit the end conversation, you can just scroll and keep scrolling. It's like 1 or 2 or even more pages of text in there. And you have entire conversations like that with a lot of dialogue options. So you do the math. And it's especially bad when you're not yet invested into the game or the story. At that point, I didn't know if I even like it. So this is why I'm a bit butthurt about the lack of voice in a lot of dialogues. Owlcat didn't have to go Larian route. They could have just used the same actors for many characters. Maybe they actually did that, I don't know. But then they should have just did it 3 times more. At least. I don't know, I hope this makes sense. Anyway, then my monkey brain calibrated. I started doing some combat. I started reading some of those dialogues that had no voiceovers. And the game suddenly clicked. By the end of the first chapter of the story, I was fully invested, intrigued by the story and the characters. The walls of text didn't bother me that much anymore, but I still just choose recommended talents each time I was leveling up, because let's face it, some average Joe with no idea how all these rules interact with each other will not be able to come up with good builds for their characters and companions. But as I said, Owlcat implemented those suggested talents for you to pick, so it's all good. I wanted to get all this out of the way first so we can dive into the game's systems afterwards. Stick until the end for my final thoughts and scores. This time I'll even try something new, to score each section individually, and at the end I average the scores and see what we get. I'll split this section up even further, and for full transparency I will rate every category separately and average them at the end, the resulting score being my gameplay rating. Difficulty. I'm not a fan of level scaling and all that in my games.
Yeah, let's let little Timmy play together with his max level friend.
And make the entire gameplay experience miserable for both of them, by removing the power fantasy of role-playing games. With that in mind, I find the difficulty curve in this game satisfying. At the beginning it's hard, your characters will get wounded a lot, you might even end up wiping entirely. But as you progress, you start feeling more and more powerful, ending up feeling like a god. This is how it should be in RPGs, in my humble opinion, and this game didn't disappoint in this regard. So start to normal and just increase or decrease the difficulty if you feel too overpowered or you keep dying. You can change it at any point. The spike in difficulty might be frustrating by the end of chapter 4 and 5. So be warned, if you min max perhaps it will be easy for you, but for me, as I made a mess out of my characters, it was really hard, even on normal difficulty. Convictions. Convictions in this game represent the moral compass of your character and your companions. It has 5 levels of adherence and provides several buffs when leveled. And I found out a lot of equipment with conviction requirements, meaning some of the cool items I got with my iconoclast character could only be used by the other 2. The story will also react to the player's choices, and ending of the game will be affected by their position. Without going into detail with any of them, these are the 3 convictions. Dogmatic. These are fanatics that put the God Emperor and the laws of the Imperium first. He or she always protects these at the expense of individuals. Nope, not for me. Iconoclast. Believes in the value of human life and freedom. This is a rare thing and it's afforded only to a select group of powerful people. In other words, you get executed if you are lower class and you have these beliefs. Being a boring, predictable human being, I picked this path. I strayed here and there, but overall this was my main conviction through the game. Heretical. Devoted to the corruption and taint of warp through total submission to the basest and darkest impulses of the soul or constant worship of the ancient gods of the immaterium. No thanks. While this is cool and all, the fact that you could act as the Saint Mary or insert any deranged leader from our recent history and not be executed hurt this whole conviction thing for me. I get it, rogue traders should have this privilege, but not to this extent, or so I feel. Character creation. It gets the job done. You can get enough visual variation for the in-game camera angle, and to be completely honest, the most important thing is the portrait you choose, more than your body type or hairstyle. If you go with a custom character, after appearance you pick your homeworld that will give you some attributes and features, so you kinda need to know what you do if you go that route, because you can mess up your build easily. I managed to do that with the pre-generated characters, so yeah. Then you pick the Forged world, Triumph and Darkest Tower, all the same really. If you know what you're doing, go for it. Then you reach archetypes. Here you can pick your class. You should already know what you want by this point, by the way. I don't know why this section isn't between appearance and homeworld, to be completely honest with you. So if I wanted to make, let's say, an arch militant, I would choose warrior or soldier and just go from there. Archetypes are mostly cool and pretty easy to understand. For each one though, you need to read a bit to figure out some synergies and the intended order of using the skills, because most of the time you will waste action points if you're doing it the wrong way. So you can just wing it. Basic or classes that you can have from level 1 in game are warrior, officer, operative and soldier. Advanced or classes you can have from level 16 in the game are assassin, vanguard, bounty hunter, master tactician, grand strategist and arch militant. And finally we have exemplar, or the class you can have from level 36, and it's the final progression track where you'll be able to choose abilities from the previous two archetypes you have chosen and advance them even further. Depending on the two archetypes you choose at level 1 and level 16, the talent, skills, characteristics and other stats. I think you can respect at any time you or your companions if you talk with Yanis Danrock on your Void Ship bridge, which is nice. I also think it's bugged or something, because when I tried to respect Idira, I ended up respecting 4 of my companions along with her, and I'm pretty sure I only selected her, so use it and prepare to save scam. Also, you can bolster your ranks with new characters made from scratch, I believe. I only saw these options exist, but I didn't use them, so... Progression. Leveling up. Talents are excessively detailed in my opinion. You often feel you need a degree of some sort in order to understand the synergies. Hell, sometimes even a single tooltip. Other than that, the pacing is good. The game lets you add pretty often new abilities in your arsenal by leveling up. Ship upgrades. Ship upgrades are cool, but I would have liked more slots and various weapon systems. Also more ship upgrades from drops, as I couldn't get my reputation up with the vendors that trade those items. And I ended the game with a subpar ship, or so I feel. The sector map is nice. I like how you discover new paths and how the game tells you how dangerous each path is. During warp on a dangerous path, all kinds of bad events can happen, so you want to prevent those to some extent, making the path safer by spending a resource I forgot the name. Oh yeah, I'm an aspiring professional reviewer. I'm still better than IGN 50% of the time, so like and subscribe if you want more of this wisdom. The resource is called Navigator's Insight. That is acquired by just exploring the sector. Companions. I'll not list them here to leave you have some surprises during the game, but companions are playable characters that can be added to your retinue and be used every time you leave your ship. Each companion has his or her personal backstory behind and different personalities and relationships with the factions or individuals. While some companions are cool characters to chat with and play with, others feel like sterile puppets with little to no character development by the end of the game. And that is pretty sad. I ended up skipping a ton of dialogue with some of the characters. Let's just say I like Pascal, for example, which has little human parts left in his body and has a robotic voice. And more than half of my companions. You can end up in a relationship with some of the companions, and it all depends on your character's gender and their orientation. You just need to choose dialogue lines that lead towards flirting. Do a quest and yeah, things will evolve one way or the other. The path towards romance is pretty well telegraphed anyway. You can also make use of formations while running around the world. Until I discovered this, I was always caught on the wrong foot. Very rarely that happened after I discovered this feature. Too bad the game didn't tell me about it, or if it did, I didn't see it. A lot of the game is like this, by the way, so read every tutorial tooltip you get. And the formations sometimes mess up, you need to rearrange your party, so check up on them before a big fight, and you should be fine. And last but not least, you can fully customize them. So if you can do something with your own character, you can do it with them also. Gear, consumables, classes, levels, all the good stuff. Itemization. There are plenty of items you will encounter in this game. From ship components to consumable items, accessories, armor and weapons. Everything you are used to if you are playing RPGs. All weapons have a percentage to hit the enemy ruled by their respective characteristics. Certain modifiers such as cover or range will change the chance to hit a weapon provides. If the enemy is standing in the tile next to you, you can only attack with melee weapons or pistols. Note that trying to get away from an adjacent enemy may provoke attacks of opportunity. It is much easier to hit the target in a weapon or ability's optimal range, which is currently said to be the half of the maximum range displayed on a weapon. My only gripe with the weapons is some of them don't have a special attack attached. Some have only one attack, some have two, and some have three. And that would be cool if there were different type of attacks with each weapon, but they are the same really. Let's take for example ranged weapons. They almost all have 1 up to 3 attacks taken from the following pool: single shot, burst fire, deadeye shot. Yeah, you have other types of attacks, I know, but these are the ones you will see most of the time. A good weapon, for example, is the plasma gun, which has plasma single shot, one very cool area of attack, and plasma overcharge. So I guess what I'm trying to say is the selection of weapon isn't that big if you look at it this way. But it's still okay, don't get me wrong, just not great. Level design. The levels have pretty cool layouts. The extensive use of cover during combat made the creation of some of these levels a challenge for the level design team for sure. But they came up with cool layouts that let you make use of cover and elevation. There is not much verticality in this game, sadly, but it is there. You can take advantage of high ground from time to time, but it's nowhere near a game like XCOM, for example. The backtracking I mentioned earlier and the quick succession of lengthy loading screens hurt the gameplay experience a bit. So levels for the most part are cool. The navigation through tight indoor levels is oftentimes difficult because the static objects that are between the camera and the character don't fade out as they should. And that made combat and running around difficult for no reason. And last, the loading screens I already touched upon. When they are in quick succession, it is very annoying. And the levels are not too big to begin with. If you clear them of all encounters, you run around from one end to the other in 15 seconds, more or less.
Or the beast. Price. has no right to exist.
Are you challenging me, Phil?
Combat. Fun for the most part. The game has too long encounters at times, and if you have 2 or even 3 of those back to back on a random planet in a solar system with no objectives in it, it gets annoying. But combat is cool. I'll say it again, depending on how deep you want to go with this, you can do mostly fine with randomly picked talents. Or you can go crazy and plan your entire skill rotation. Oh, one more thing that annoys me in these kinds of games is the combat camera in turn-based mode. I'm glad I could tweak it to my liking by switching off lock camera to moving character and move camera to currently acting character. Camera still jumps to my characters when I use certain abilities, but is nowhere near as snappy as before I turn those options off. And I don't like the fact that you can't rotate the camera on all axes. I get it, you are not supposed to be seeing further than the devs want you to see. But with some limitations, the range of movements and the camera could still be increased without letting you look beyond what they want you to see.
Careful.
And one last thing that I didn't exactly like in Baldur's Gate 3 either, is that annoying delay when you take an action. The delay between the moment you press the key and the actual action happening. This might be a personal issue though, I don't know. Space combat, exploration, colonization. This game has better space exploration than Starfield. And I'm not even kidding. You literally go blind and explore the star map, not knowing what you will encounter during Void Warp or in the next system. Once in a system, explore every planet, scan it, find and extract resources, and you can even colonize some of the worlds. And then you can start those colony projects that give you, in the end, all kinds of rewards, bonuses and perks. Or you can take part in all kinds of rewarding or perilous events. I like this part. There is a balance I try to have in all my colonies between efficiency, complacency and security. The warp routes you discover when you chart a sector between a range between safe to deadly, the latter being very, well, dangerous. You can reduce this by spending navigators in sight, making the route safer. This is a special resource acquired by exploring the Coronus Expanse, scanning new systems, anomalies and participate in non-combat space events. So don't spend it very fast. The rule I try to stick to is don't spend any of it until I explore at least 2 systems. And I never want to make the lines green. I'm okay with yellow or even orange. Space combat is definitely easier but fun and rewarding as you figure things out. So why I praise a feature and then give it a low score, you might ask? Well, it could be way better than this. Developers should have added more options when you develop your colonies and upgrade your ship. I don't know. What's in the game feels good, but it also feels lacking. Everything but the sector map, that is. That one looks and feels awesome. So despite praising this, I'll give it a 7 out of 10. And it's time to add everything up and see what average I get for the gameplay section. Graphics. First time I said the game doesn't look too good, but then it grew on me, like the rest of the game. The art looks pretty cool, indoors especially. I'm not convinced by some of the exteriors though, but indoors the Imperial Gothic architecture contributes to the grim vibe of Warhammer. And in indoor levels, devs added a lot more fluff, obviously. They played with lighting, they could add more decals and static objects, so the interior and exterior levels seem to be made by 2 different studios. The effects look cool and they are a bit over the top, as I expect in a game like this, but they could be better. And finally, I could not notice the textile density discrepancy on some of the environment models, meaning some of the surfaces have more detailed texture than others. I see these kinds of things as I'm a 3D environment artist and they annoy me. But hey, you should reach your own conclusions watching this video, because every option is maxed out in the settings. From the architecture to every static object within the world and even menus and the UI, the game sells you the Warhammer universe. Be it steampunk, dieselpunk, dystopian science fantasy, or however you want to call it. Performance. I have a good PC with specs in the description, and the only thing I can speak of here is the fact that the loading times between levels takes too long if you take into account what you are loading. Sound.
Beyond the sire knows all.
Sounds are decent. Gun sound meaty and impacts make you feel the weapons have weight. That is always good. The soundtrack is pretty epic, as you might expect out of a Warhammer game. Rogue Trader has plenty of environmental sounds that change depending on your location. Only problem I have with this is the voice acting, or let's say the lack of it. Especially because I like what we have in the game. Just imagine 100% fully voiced dialogues. My god. And the characters that have voice actors are not even 100%, like more than half of your dialogue with them is text. Last thing, as I said, the in-game cinematics are lacking sounds among other things. You see chat bubbles but nobody talks. You see hordes of people cheering, but they do it in silence. Surely, at least in these cinematics, developers wanted to put some sounds, right? I mean, why have them if it's half-fast like this? And my last point, the music is epic and great, but it gets repetitive by the end of the game. Not annoyingly, but it's what I felt. Story. Rogue traders are very wealthy and rich because of the business they do. Their business includes the black marketing and selling of the whole different worlds. They are so rich that they don't need to count their money. I will spoil a few things here, not much story spoilers but visual ones, because I will put here random sequences from the later parts of the game. I feel any review can do the game justice if you don't at least show a bit of everything. The shots I will show you can't possibly spoil the story for you, but it might be better if you have a few surprises in the later parts of the game. I'm talking about chapter 5 here. Quick TLDR for the story section is the story is good if you like to read. So if you don't want any spoilers, feel free to skip this part in 3, 2, 1. You start the game as the heir of Theodora von Valentius, who is the head of House von Valentius, and she is the one of the 3 rogue traders in the game at this time. She is assassinated early during the first act of the game, and you end up replacing her as the rogue trader of the house, while trying to understand things.
At least you are alive, and now safe, master.
During the prologue, you recruit Abelard Verserian, who is a powerful warrior faithful to your rogue trader empire. He, along with other people, aid you during the journey and explain how your empire works, and he tells you what you should be doing in the beginning.
Emperor.
But as I said, the story got me hooked at some point after the prologue.
Lord Captain, I didn't hear a thing. Not a whisper, not a breath. It was so loud. Why didn't I foresee this?
And the only thing that holds it back for me is the lack of fully voice acted characters, and has bits and pieces that are not that good, but overall Owlcat Games managed to pull it off, converging at the end all story arcs into a good and satisfying ending. And by the way, be careful and prepare for save scamming, especially if you do it blind like I did. and not follow guides, because sometimes you get locked out of stuff if you don't do certain actions or don't talk to certain people when the designers of the game wanted you to. No details for this, as I don't want to spoil stuff, just trust me, okay? Save often. Now, why I say this game has better space exploration than Starfield? Flying around the solar systems and scanning planets uncovers a lot of lore. Not exactly required to advance the story, but it helps you understand the events that are taking place around the sector and its inhabitants. I might get jumped in the comment section, but the story reminds me in a way of Dune. And that is a good compliment coming from me, as I'm a huge Dune nerd. All those houses that scheme against each other for power, and the fact that Imperium banned computers and AI, the navigation, and many more similarities I won't go into because it's not the place for it. I'll also put this one here, but it's more about the clunky questing system and the bad signaling of this game, not the story itself. Anyway, in every act but Act 1 and 2 I believe, I failed a few side missions, companion missions and so on. You see, when you advance to the next chapter, you can't complete some of the old quests anymore. So if you progress the main story while you still have other quests, bad luck. And I did it because I was bored of looking for clues. And I was curious how the main story continued. I'm the type of guy who doesn't enjoy playing a game like this looking at guides, and some of the quests in Rogue Trader are so convoluted I feel you can't do them without serious time wasting looking for clues. Tell me in the comments if you think I'm wrong and why, because I can't see myself looking more than 3 hours around for a door on a planet that has randomized levels every time I jump into one. I'm sorry. I enjoyed Act 3 and 5 more than the rest, because in 1, 2 and 4 I felt at times it was dragging out only for the sake of inflating my time spent into the game. Meaning the pacing of the story was a bit off in those chapters, or so it felt to me at least. But there's a bit but in here. This might be because of the long combat encounters during these chapters, not the pacing of the story itself. Yeah. Menu and UI. It's very cool. I like the looks and the animations. I would only like the ability to track quests somehow. I mean, you have main quests in the star map sometimes, not all the time. Then in the solar map, in the solar system map, but it doesn't go further than that, sadly. On the planets, when you look at the map, there is no aid. And sometimes you end up running around searching for the character you are supposed to talk to. At least mark them as important characters if they have something useful to you. Like you are already doing with some of the characters, by the way. The fonts are good and easy to read. I like the Corpus Valentius thing, that is some sort of in-game wiki. Well, too bad it doesn't have a search function. But it's cool, nonetheless. But besides these small things, the UI is good and helps sell the Warhammer fantasy. Conclusion. While being a very cool game, Warhammer 40k Rogue Trader will test your patience again and again. From some quests bugging out to the lack of good quality of life features. I play all kinds of hardcore games, but the lack of inconsistency with the signaling of the quests is very annoying. I mean, yeah, some quests are marked on the star map, but most of them are not. I mean, I'm all for reading, my guys, but like I do with the entire story of the game. But when you force me to go read online stuff because you don't implement some damn quest markers on the damn map, I feel someone is taking the piss with me. Devs also missed an opportunity to add some quality of life to the tooltips. I mean, they made 1 kilometer long tooltips, but that wall of text doesn't explain basic stuff at times. The game has weird cutscenes. I know what they've tried with them, but either make them as you should make them, or scrap them altogether. As they are now, I'd just scrap more than half of them, seriously. Snappy animations, bad rigging, and the lack of sounds, and there is this delay, like the game doesn't know what to do or didn't realize the actual cutscene is over. It doesn't take too long, but it gets annoying. So at times, trying to progress through the story is a pain. The game is supposed to make it easy for you, but it isn't. And I'm talking about simple things here, not a lot of extra work for the developers. Just simple quality of life things. So Rogue Trader gets an 8 out of 10. It was 8.4 but I rounded it down because of the above. If you want a quick fix, have no patience, you want to kill hordes of monsters without thinking, you hate reading, this game is not for you. Stay away. I hope Owlcat Games makes a profit with this because they deserve it, and I hope they invest more resources into quality of life systems into their games, cinematics and voice actors. It's a cool game, I fully recommend it if you have a passion for sci-fi and like to read. Take a look at one of my other reviews if you like this one and tell me anything in the comments. I respond to every comment I get. This is pretty much it, guys. I hope you liked it. I wish you a happy new year, stay safe, healthy, and hope to see you come back in 2024.